Hello everyone, this is a re-recording. It is a review for Ready to Love Season 6, Episode 5. And in this particular episode, we were left on a cliffhanger because the men essentially that were put up for elimination were not eliminated. These men included Alonzo, Justice, and LJ. And the thing is that they typically put two people up for elimination, but in this situation they put up three people, and I'm not quite sure why. But anyways, the thing with LJ was I wasn't expecting him to be put in the bottom as well. I also wasn't really expecting Alonzo to be put on the bottom. Justice I expected because a lot of women had already stated that he was difficult to get through to, and he was just being very combative, very much like having a barrier and not opening up to the process. Now Tommy decided to have a little bit of a meeting with those three men that were put in the bottom to essentially explain to them what the women were saying about them and why they were placed in the bottom. And for LJ, they felt like LJ was too much of a lover boy. He was everywhere essentially, and I guess they felt like he wasn't dating with a purpose, or he wasn't using or taking this process as intently as the women wanted him to. And then and he was quite receptive to that. And Alonzo, they stated that they can't really get through to him. Like, it's like there's a barrier there, there's a lack of something there that they're unable to kind of make a connection with him. And then we have Justice, and they mentioned that with Justice, the difficulty with him is that he's so in his own mind and in his own stubbornness, and the way he thinks is the way he thinks, and nobody could really change that. And so the women were having issues with communicating with him, even getting on common ground with him, because he thinks that his process is the process, and it's the only thing that he's willing to follow. And my thing about it is, if you're saying that the women don't understand your process, why are you not trying to come to a point where both of you guys, you and the women, are able to come to a common ground as far as getting to know each other is concerned? Why are you so adamant that they should follow your process? At the end of the day, relationships are a two-way street. You know what I mean? And then he's talking about pursuing one woman, and he's gonna be intentional about pursuing that one woman. At the end of the day, this process is not for Justice, and I feel like he should escape. He should leave the show as soon as possible. Then we have LJ. As I said before, I never expected LJ to be in the bottom, so I personally wasn't even expecting that. But for Justice, I definitely feel like this is not the process for him, and he should leave as soon as possible. So we have a group date with a couple of women, a couple of men. Actually, all the men are the same men placed in the bottom. So LJ, Alonzo, and Justice. And I think there were four women, and they included Cherise, Shakira, Jamala, and Chanika, and they went into this speed racing type of situation, and Alonzo was being extremely competitive. He didn't care if it was a man or a woman. He wanted to win. So I believe he came in this date with the intention that he was gonna be his authentic self. Whether that is a good thing or a bad thing, that was what he was gonna do. He had come to a conclusion prior to this date that he didn't care what the outcome was going to be. He was going to act how he wanted to act. He ended up bumping into Chanika, and she ended up getting hurt to the point where she had to stop and get off because she was literally in pain for 3 minutes, and he didn't care at all. I didn't see him apologize to her or anything of that sort, and she called him an a-hole, and I do believe that he was acting like one in this particular group date. Now, what really ended up turning this whole competitive situation into something way out of proportion is Cherise decided to tell him when he won, or whatever the case is, that we'll barbecue him. Now, I don't understand if he had been called Porky Pig as a child, and he has some trauma attached to being called Porky Pig, and that is why the barbecuing thing bothered him so much. But I just highly doubt that this is the reason why this man went off to that extent. He didn't want to really, from the beginning, he was not receptive to Cherise. She was asking him questions he didn't care to answer. He didn't even seem to be into that game. Now, one thing I must commend Alonso about is that if he's not feeling something, it's not difficult for you to tell. That kiss with what's her name, that was terrible, and we saw it from his expression. And so this thing with Cherise, this conversation, he wanted no parts of it, and he did not want to sugarcoat anything. Now, LLB made a great comment that Cherise is a type of person where it's like she wants to know what her position is, and so she was asking him, oh, what is your process, what is your plan moving forward? Not in regards to genuinely wanting to know, but just in regards to wanting to know where to position herself with him. And so all of this to me is strategy. And I feel like for whatever reason, maybe it was a woman that went into his ear and told him what happened or what was spoken about in the women's lounge, but the way he handled it was just out of order, to the point where he even makes the poor woman cry, and I'd never think I'd see Cherise cry. So Kadian, Chanika pulled Justice aside to speak to him, particularly about the situation with the whole calling thing. He told Tommy that, oh, she's calling me at this late hour, and basically making it seem like it was such a terrible thing. And then she's basically explaining that that's like completely not how the situation went. Like, you make it seem like it was this whole terrible thing, when really and truly it was either a misunderstanding or a lack of communication on both sides. And it was not a situation for him to have gone to Tommy and said, oh, she calls me so late at night. It could have been so innocent, as in, that's the time she got to contact you, so she tried. She tried to see if you'd be responsive. You were not, and that's fine. And when you were able to come and connect with her, you could have called her back. And you hear him saying he never even saved her number. So this man, to me, has no intent on getting to know these women. He has no intent on conversing with these women. He just, the intent is just absolutely not there. And I feel that Kadian is just over it, because she sees that, and she just is not in the realm of playing games with people in that way. And I feel as if that's why she was so short with him. And when he asked for a hug, she was like, why? Like, there's no reason. Caribbean women don't believe in hugging, especially after an argument that was so heated and absolutely nothing was resolved. And Miss Chanika was reiterating that to him about the women. The women all feel as if you have this barrier, this wall, and it's like they just cannot get through to you. You know what I'm saying? So the only person to me I see that is, I guess, tolerant of justice seems to be Chanika. Maybe Jamala, but more so Chanika. Chanika appears to be the movement of the season, where she kind of gets along with everybody and gives everybody a chance, whereas I'm more on the side of Kadian, because I don't have time for these games. And the thing with this show is that they're going to push you to stay in situations that you otherwise would have just cut off immediately, because that's the nature of the show. You have to form multiple connections. Whether you want to or not, you cannot really close a door, because closing a door means less connections. Less connections mean you might potentially get sent home, and nobody wants to get sent home. So that was essentially the nature of their conversation. Either way, the way Justice is reacting or responding to this whole thing is a big turn-off. And it just speaks to the fact that these men or these contestants are scouted, because nobody that really wanted to be on that show will have that type of approach. They would be more intentional, they would be more serious, and they would be more invested in the women, or in the process. And the thing is, like, I believe like these men, they simply they simply have no respect for these women. And I still am not sure as to why Alonzo, well, I do know why Alonzo was so combative with Cherise, but it's like it was unwarranted. And she was upset. And the thing about it is, and LLB said that as well, these two personalities clash. They don't align. Cherise will always get her words in no matter what. She will have the last word. And I just feel like he was not going to allow her to have the last word. And so, in hindsight, that couple would never make sense anyways, because that argument solidified. Nothing of substance would ever come out of that. Now, I felt really sorry for her because I felt like Alonzo had no business talking to her in that particular way. You may have felt upset about something she did, but the more mature thing to do is to sit down and speak about the misunderstanding, not go about disrespecting her, calling her fake, and being so combative with her. That to me was not necessary. Now, my suspicion is a woman or somebody told him something about what Cherise said, maybe about him, and it really ticked him off. And for some reason, I'm leaning toward that person being Kadian or Kadeen, because I just feel like she's the type of personality where she may unintentionally do something that will just set off this whole crescendo of unfortunate events. She may not do it intentionally, but the indirect cause of her, I guess, looking out for a friend may not end very well. So she's venting to LJ and she's venting to Katie, and that she doesn't understand like what's going on. He's talking about he never wanted me, and I think that bruised her ego, honestly. For somebody to say they never wanted her, not a preference, not a light-skinned Puerto Rican or Latin, not her, so that really hurt her ego. So she was telling Katie and this, and basically saying that he's talking about he never wanted me, I never wanted him. But to me, that solidified what he was saying, which is essentially that he never felt like her interest in him was genuine. So in that sense, I agree, because I also didn't think that her interest in Alonzo was genuine. I feel like all she was doing was what the producers told her she has to do on this show, which is to get to know as many people as possible. Whether you're really interested in them or not is irrelevant. Just be open and get to know them. And I don't see anything wrong with that. But somebody made a really good point about Cherise, which is essentially that what she ends up doing is like throwing a stone and hiding her hand. So that comment she may have made may have hurt him. But instead of owning up to it, okay, maybe I said something that hurt you in a particular way, and I'm sorry, what she ends up doing is playing the victim and acting like she did nothing wrong. And we saw that in previous episodes when she called Randall a king, and Randall had an issue with that, and then her response, and she knew that tone in which she said it. She knew she said it to kind of hurt him in a way, but she made it seem as if, oh, well, if I call you king, I'm sorry, knowing full well why she called him that in the first place. It was derogatory, and we see that there with Alonzo as well. Now, although I still don't believe that he's doing all this because of the barbecue comment, I still think that it was unwarranted, and his approach of handling things was very childish, and it completely turned me off about him. Now, about Shakira, I'm so exhausted already about Shakira. She's been crying about this trauma thing for 2 episodes now, and it's like really, like, my patience level is becoming limited. I completely understand. Kadian should have never told Mike, oh, she was dealing with trauma and maybe that's why she wants to leave this conversation. That wasn't Kadian's place to say. Allow this woman to share her story by herself. Allow her to explain things to these men on her own. And I think the biggest issue with Shakira is that it's not just that she shared the story, it's that she shared it with a man, and I feel like it stems from the fact that the hurt that she, or the trauma she was, or that inflicted her, was as a result of a man, and she already came into this process feeling as if nobody would want her because of the trauma. So for you to almost expose her wound, which is unhealed, it kind of makes her feel extremely embarrassed, because at least allow me to remove my bandages and show off my wound on my own. She kind of felt, as I said before, like her power was removed from her. And maybe a lot of her trauma has to do with her not being in power and not being able to make her own decisions. So she spoke to Tommy, and Tommy told her, okay, you're going to sit out of this women's lounge and I'm going to discuss it with the women. And that is essentially what ended up happening. Do I think Kadian was wrong? I do. Do I think that Kadian knows she was wrong? I don't. I feel like if Shakira were to come up to Kadian and say, you doing this hurt me, Kadian would be completely oblivious. Like, what? Because Kadian doesn't think that what she did was with any mal intent. She just did it because I guess that is the natural thing for her to do. That's like her personality. Like if there's any kind of question, she's there to provide an answer, even if it has nothing to do with her. Clearly it's bothering Shakira to the point where she's very emotional. And again, I'm questioning, is this woman ready for love? Because if you're so distraught and stuck up on this trauma, it's clearly fresh and it's clearly something that she needs to work on outside of the show. Too many broken people end up in relationships and end up wreaking havoc not only on themselves but on other people. So I definitely feel like that break is one that she needed. So anyways, there was another group date between two couples, Mike and Brandy, as well as Looney and the Persian guy. I still forgot his name. Now, Mike and Brandy seemed to be very smitten with each other. There was a lot of sexual tension, sexual energy, but I'm yet to see anything of substance with them. To the point where the Persian guy and Looney decided to go off somewhere else because the PDA was too much for them. So they spoke. Now the interaction with Looney and Persian guy was very uncomfortable. I see Looney trying, but I just don't see it happening with them. So back to Brandy and Mike. Brandy is a flight attendant, and she shared that she, of course, is going to be away from home because of her job. Mike shared his concern that he's not sure if he's going to be able to wait on her, and she already is talking about, she can adjust her schedule and do all these things. Now, the thing about it is, I've not heard Mike say anything as far as him adjusting his schedule to suit Brandy. And that's the thing with these men. They want people to move mountains for them, and they're no longer willing to move mountains for these women as well. This man was feeding her grapes. The way he was dipping the grapes in the wine just reminds me of this teabagging thing, this sexual thing that men do with their testicles. I don't know. It just seemed a little bit disgusting to me. And I think she got the joke, and the way she was eating those grapes, the way she grabbed onto that grape, it looked very much like she was picking up what he was throwing down. It was just not something I wanted to see. Imagine how Persian guy and Looney felt on the date with these two, especially because Looney and Persian guy is not in the same space as Brandy and Mike. It must have been uncomfortable. But anyways, I just don't know if Brandy is the type of guy for Mike. Mike talking about he feels butterflies when he's around Brandy. Those butterflies are literally anxiety. Anxiety because or you have a feeling, or maybe Brandy reminds him of his past failed relationship partners, and maybe that's why he has anxiety, because he doesn't know if it's gonna end up in another failed relationship. and that's completely normal. I mean, he's allowed to feel that way. It's just that pay attention to tingles and knots and butterflies in your stomachs, because we like to romanticize these things, but it's literally your body warning you that perhaps you should step back and reassess things, and maybe see or dig more deeper into someone, because you're clearly not sure about them. Do I think that Brandy is gonna give him what he wants as far as like being heard, seen and not heard? No. Brandy does not strike me as the type of woman that wants to be seen and not heard. So he's gonna have issues there. Beside or beyond that sexual tension, I see problems for Mike and Brandy, honestly. So we are on a date with Mr. LJ, sorry, and Miss Tranica. Might I just add that I'm loving Tranica's wig. It's beautiful. The one she had before was distracting to the point where it looked stiff, it looked terrible, and I just couldn't see past that wig. Now I'm able to see Tranica's face. Tranica is beautiful, and she is the most zen. She's the most, I guess, easy to get along with as far as the men are concerned, and she knows how to be sexy and flirty, and that's why I don't think any man would have a problem with Tranica. She gives them what they want. She gives this submissive femininity, but with a little bit of spice, and the men like that. And we see that in this date when they make reference to, oh, you're gonna take me home, and these sexual innuendos. There was also that in the date she had with Randall. We also saw a little bit of that sexuality of it all. Do I think LJ will be sent home? Absolutely not, because according to these women, he stepped up a lot, and Tranica sees that, and she's interested in that as well. Mr. Alonso, on the other hand, he could go. I'm so sick of this man, the way he handled that whole situation with Charisse. It was just unacceptable. And I understand Charisse may be a little bit rough, and the word she chooses to use may trigger you, but it all depends on how you respond to that. There's maturity in certain responses, and for your big age, the way you reacted just speaks to the fact that you and Charisse would never make any sense. So in the women's lounge, we see Charisse, and Charisse is literally discussing the whole thing of what took place with Alonzo, and Kadian is like, oh, well, I spoke to him, and it's because you said barbecue or whatever the case is. And to me, that was so trivial. And so what? Did that warrant him being so combative and disgusting and disrespectful? And this is why I say Kadian probably is the one that kind of snuck in and told Alonzo probably what they discussed in the men's lounge. I'm convinced. And here we have a beautiful shot of Tranica and that wig. It's giving, and I love it. But my thing is, with Kadian, you clearly see she doesn't quite like Charisse. You clearly see that. And it's like, I just don't understand what the beef is. Like, allow the woman to say what she needs to say, despite whatever you spoke with Alonso about. He had no right speaking to this woman the way he did, period. And we also saw that, we saw Tommy kind of start speaking about or making reference to the situation with Shakira, but he didn't quite, really say anything much. And Kadian was already rolling her eyes, so she already knows it is directed towards her. Now, the situation with Kayla is rehashing her date with Randall, and she kissed Randall. Now, Kayla loves to do that. Kayla loves to make a small situation into something big. That kiss was probably a small peck on the cheek, and she makes it seem as if they were smooching, they were using tongue, and they were doing all kinds of things like on their date, and that clearly, truly wasn't true. I just feel like she plays it up because she knows she has competition when it comes to Randall, and that competition is Jamala. That's who she's competing against. We saw that when she was telling Randall, I saw Jamila's bum on social media, like that has anything to do with her and Randall's connection. But here she is being childish. and Jamala is coming back and giving. Remember, Jamala and Kayla are the two youngest women on the show, and they're literally acting that way. Like, Jamala is literally just 3 years older than Kayla. Now, Jamala starts speaking on her date with Randall, who she called, oh, my rara, just completely childish. Oh, we did this, and we spoke, and we broke layers, and we did this. And of course, Kayla is picking up what Jamala is throwing down, and so she's rolling her eyes. And this whole back and forth just seemed extremely catty to me. And like, I could have lived without seeing that back and forth, because not you guys fighting and competing for a man, okay? And so now they decided to speak about their connections with these men. And so they decided that Brandy would be the one to connect with Alonzo and let him know, to be honest with you guys, because I already knew this, that he would be the one sent home. So Brandy's coming there talking about how nervous she is about breaking the news to Alonzo. Little does she know, Alonzo is 100 steps ahead of her and the producers, and he knows he made himself look foolish. And by the way he left that speed cat race, that speed cat date, I just knew he made a fool of himself, and there's no way he would come on a public or national platform again, because he knew he looked like an ass. He knew he looked ridiculous, so there's no way he was gonna show up. So there's no way for Brandy to get the other side of any story, because he wasn't showing up, and she was upset because producers tell her, okay, meet at this restaurant at this time. You're gonna be telling Alonzo he's gonna be sent home, and for her to be preparing mentally and all these things for him to not show up just proves that, in a sense, he knows he handled the situation wrong. You know what I'm saying? And for a man to make Cherise cry, oh my goodness, like, you had to have cut that woman deep. So these people would have never been a very good couple. Now, Justice is staying. The other one is staying. What's his name? LJ. Not a surprise. I don't think anybody is really here for Cherise, but she's on to the next one. I do not see Cherise connecting with anybody. Shakira is still crying about the trauma. She's still upset. Next episode, they're gonna address the trauma again, and this time she's gonna be confronting Kadian, and we see Kadian gives her a piece of her mind and she walks off, because I just feel like even the audience feels a particular way, like, you're dragging this, like, you've been talking about this for so long. When are you gonna get over this trauma and just move forward? I don't share those sentiments. I feel like if it hurts her, she should speak about it. As long as it helps her heal, she should speak on it. Now, what else? We see Randall and Jamala share a kiss in the upcoming episode. It doesn't seem like Randall was too much into that kiss. And that just speaks to Jamala being competitive. She heard that he kissed Kayla, so she wants her kiss too. And it just seemed childish. Now, what else? That was predominantly the essence of this particular episode. Let me know if you guys have any questions, if you guys feel as if Alonzo was justified in him coming at Miss Cherise. Let me know if you feel that Jamala kissing Randall is something she's doing more so out of competition, as opposed to her genuinely liking Randall. Pay attention to the fact that we didn't see Swayze, we didn't see so many other cast members, and it's because, like, the way they're editing this season, it's like, if you have no dates, or if they don't choose to air your recorded dates, you will not be really part of the show. Although we did see Kayla there, but we did not see Swayze, or we barely saw the other women, and it's just quite interesting the way they edit things. What are my other thoughts? I just feel like Cherise is gonna try to stay on as long as she can, but I just don't see Cherise really clicking with anyone. Like, I really don't. Like, it's very difficult for me to put her with anybody, because she just doesn't fit. But anyways, in related news, Kadian decided to share with some fans of the show that she hated how they edited the women. They made it seem like the women were just at each other's necks, and they failed to show the memorable, fun dating moments that they had. And so she said she regretted the fact that she even signed up for the show, because she had no idea that producers would essentially do her so dirty. Anyways, let me know what you guys think. Like, subscribe, and see you next time. Bye bye.